Hello, welcome to Be the Boss of Your Money. I'm Mitch Goldberg, a financial advisor with over 30 years of experience. This is my live stream. It's all about personal finance, giving you the skills and knowledge that you need to take control of your money. I have a special guest today, so I'm going to cut right to the quick intro. Her name is Rebecca Brooks, financial coach. That title does not do her justice. She is great at what she does. She's part motivator, part psychologist, part mindset mediator. She does a lot of things. So I'm going to bring her on in a second. So we're going to just run the quick intro. And this is going to be a great show. We're talking about budgeting. And I want her for every minute I can get her for the next 28 minutes. Here we go. Welcome back. You're watching Be the Boss of Your Money. I'm Mitch Goldberg. We have a special guest today, Rebecca Brooks, financial coach, co-founder of R&D Coaching. So without further ado, we're going to bring her in right now.
Hey.
So nice to see you, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm well. Nice to see you too, Mitch. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing okay. I'm feeling like very high energy today.
Good.
So it's like I get revved up whenever I have a live stream, but when I have you're a coach, when I have a guest, whoops, is today Monday? When I have a guest, I get a little bit more revved up because I want to do justice for my audience, but I want my guests to have a great experience too. Yeah. But this show is about it's about personal finance. And I want to make sure I'm bringing my audience the most valuable content that we could possibly give them.
Yeah, okay. Well, you do a great job. Yeah, and the conversation, I agree. Like, it's very energizing to have somebody to talk to. Yeah,
it is. You know, I'm usually here by myself. I do the live stream as a solo, and then my editor works with me and all that. But it's really a lot to do. So it kind of takes some pressure off me, though, to have a guest. So the pressure's on you, really.
Oh, all right.
But don't worry about it. No pressure. So for those of you who are a regular viewer, Rebecca has been my guest in the past. We spoke about Robinhood and the gamification of trading stocks. This was way before the whole fiasco with the Big Short and GameStop and AMC and COS and other stocks. So she was like the first one to really, at least in my world. And in my world, I've been in the financial world a long time. Rebecca is the first person to bring this out in such a way to say, hey, this is gamification. It's saying, hey, come on back and overtrade more than what's really good for you. Because we all know that the more you trade, what typically happens is the worse you do, not the better you do. Right? Yeah. So today we're going to keep going with personal finance, and we're talking about budgeting. And I don't know how this came up, but I wrote a post. I said, let's get rid of the word budget and replace it with priority. Because when you hear budget, it sounds like a punishment, like, oh, you're going on a strict budget, like no dopamine, you're punished. It's going to be very restrictive, kind of like going on a strict diet. It might last for a little while, but it's not a good long-term way to improve yourself. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's talk about the B word.
Yeah. I love it. And I remember that post. It was really great that got the conversation going. And because I think that a trend that I see a lot in finance is avoiding budget and, and saying like, okay, well, let's give it another name, or, we're playing around and calling it the B word. But, if people do have that reaction of like a budget means that I'm going to be limited, or a budget means that I can't do things that I enjoy. And to me, and when I teach my clients and how I work with everybody is like, it's actually the exact opposite. It really, it's, within those details and being able to say, okay, I know that I'm checking all my boxes. I know where my money's going, et cetera. It actually frees you up to do more of what you want to do with your money.
So I don't enjoy paying the electric bill. but enjoy going to the gym. But I don't think we're talking about not paying the bills that you don't enjoy paying. So Um, how do you break the psychology of following a budget? And I think the way I described it in my post that we're talking about is a budget will help you prioritize spending on what you really want and get
Mm-hmm.
rid of a lot of the fluff so that you have something to work for and look forward to. But is it about having a goal that you're just incredibly passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
Or, if what would you tell somebody who walks into onto your website, what have you, and says, "Hey, I want a budget. How do I get started?"
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's all of that. It's a matter of, really just looking at your ins and your outs, right? And being able to say, okay, well, now with like what we've learned from your income and your expenses and where everything's going, is everything aligning with your values? Are you actually using your money in a way that's building a life that you want, or are you just kind of just shooting from the hip, And so that's really what the budget allows you to do, is to make sure that like you're checking the boxes that are most important to you long term. So if you are working towards goals of, retiring early or buying a home or whatever you're working towards with your financial goals, that budget is really going to be like the key to that map. To help you to say, okay, well, this is what I need to do, and maybe some trade-offs, right? Because we don't make infinite amounts of money. So you have to be able to look at it and make decisions of where that money is going to go. But it's completely up to you. And that's the empowering part of it, not the limiting part of it. I think people get that really twisted.
You always hear, these. I think it's kind of silly, like, oh, don't buy that cup of coffee at Starbucks. Forget the latte, and don't you dare get double guac at Chipotle. Don't you dare.
I will always get double guac. You can't stop me.
I'm a guac guy. Like, oh, yeah. I buy the guac at Costco because I'm always eating guacamole.
Yeah, I'm vegetarian, and if you get the vegetarian stuff at Chipotle, they don't charge you for the guac. So there's that.
You're kidding me. It's like it's a little life hack that you just shared with us. Thank you very much. I think we can end it here, folks. We have just gotten value, and I should start like a Patreon account on YouTube just to collect money from everybody who saves money
on their guac.
Vegetarian meal on the guac.
Yep.
Like you could get guac, like double guac even. Could you get double guac? Well, you could get guac.
I don't know. I don't think so.
And give some of it to Dylan.
Yeah. We're both vegetarian. Yeah, we're both rocking that same hack.
All right. So next time you're in New York, you'll hang out with me. I'll take some of the guac with my beefy burrito bowl. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
So you're a financial coach, and I like. A financial coach is different than a financial advisor, and just as valuable, I think, because it's one thing to be really good with your money and to use a financial advisor, but I feel like a financial coach comes in before that. Yeah. Like I used a business coach a long time ago, and it was a really big help. And he came up with ideas I didn't think of, or helped pull ideas that were in my head just beneath the surface, and things worked very well. And I kind of feel like, that's what a financial coach does. You help get people ready to use a financial advisor. But I don't see why you'd stop using a financial coach, because it's, there's a certain amount of accountability to it. It's not just saying invest $300 per month into X fund and you'll get X return over 25 years after taxes, inflation, and show people a Monte Carlo simulation and a chart and say, here's your 100-page document. And that's the end of it. And then the client sits there and is like, what? Yeah. They didn't get the coaching that they needed before that. Right. And I feel like that's where the financial coach comes in.
Definitely. And it's really where I think this conversation of the budgeting part, really makes a lot of sense too, is where, a lot of people will say like, oh, well, the budget, that's limiting, or that's, let's call it something else, or, and pick your financial term, right? It doesn't have to just be that. People who are scared of the stock market, or people who are just, there's whatever it is that they're maybe not dealing with, or there's a lack of knowledge. That is where the coach comes in, and we help them to overcome that obstacle, as opposed to just saying like, well, well, let's just create this little mental loophole so you can lie to yourself and just give the budget a different name. That's not really like addressing what's really going on with that individual that's preventing them from wanting to control their finances in that way. Right.
I mean,
So
it's one thing to recognize symptoms, but you have to get to the heart cause, the root of
exactly.
a poor budget. So how do you get started with a budget? What do you say to somebody? Give me some nuggets. Like what do we do first?
Yeah, it's so simple. You know, I think a lot of people really, they overthink it. And it can be really challenging, but a lot of it's really just like pulling from, classic things that you learned when you're a kid in math class. You're literally just looking at your incomes, taking an average. Like one really big nugget that I have for people, especially if they're like not salaried or they are salaried and like commissions come in or something, they have a variable income, which is really popular for our business owners, right? Sure. Then, taking an average of like the past 12 months, and saying, okay, well, this is how much income that I have to work with, and then just like looking back at the past couple months of spending and just really starting to, before taking really any action, just meditating on it and saying, okay, well, like, what am I seeing here? What patterns can I recognize? And what's moving me closer to the life that I really want? And what's maybe moving me in the direction that I don't want to go. So a lot of it is really sitting with those thoughts.
When I start with somebody, and not everybody's in the same position. Some people have their financial stuff together, mm-hmm. and some people's finances, when they come to see me, are like a total shit show. And so
yeah,
it's like they bring in like a dumpster fire, like a smoldering dumpster fire, drop it on my conference table and say, okay, do what you got to do. And I'm like, no, it's you have to do what you have to do first before I could do for you what I can do for you. So what I do first is I tell people, let me see your last 3 months of bank statements. And we see I don't want to get so granular. Like, what do you spend on your internet service? What do you spend on your cell phone service? I'm not looking to make a little micro list. What I'm looking to do is say, okay, the last 3 months, each month you bought an X amount. Mm-hmm. This is, I would say, is kind of going somebody who's not so variable in their income.
Yeah.
And then I look at the beginning of the balance, what went into it, what came out. And I said, here is your surplus or your deficit. Mm-hmm. So every month it's really a matter of you're spending, $500 a month too much, or you're clearing your monthly nut by X amount. Now that we have that number and it's pretty consistent, now we could start to say, we need to figure out where we're going to save, let's say $500 a month. What are you going to cut out? And map on a map. Like, okay, like get so granular now with the planning and say, on Monday, that's the day that you get to go out to lunch and get your dopamine hit. Tuesday is the day that you're bringing in lunch. Like, I know this might sound somewhat juvenile, but sometimes it's just that when you're the one running as fast as the treadmill, all you could look at is the seconds that are going by so you could get to the end of your run.
Yeah, I totally get it. And so for me and what we do, it's actually more, I would say hands off. We have more accountability check-ins. It's like probably than most like financial advisors do, because we meet with our clients at least once a month. But a lot of it is just like helping them to identify these things and letting kind of really leading the horse to water, as opposed to even pointing out like what can you do, because there's this thing called the endowment effect, and this is really where a lot of budgeting apps get it wrong, and why a lot of people fail with them, is because there's a lot of power in coming up with the solution yourself or creating the budget yourself. So when a budget's automated and it just numbers are cranked out to you and you're told how much you can spend, there's not a lot of buy-in. As opposed to if you sat down and you like crunched the numbers yourself and you gave yourself permission to spend that amount of money.
So if somebody were to work with you, you would pull that out of them? Like, would you say, I need to see your bank account statement, your credit card statement? I need to know.
Nope.
No. Okay.
No, I totally guide them. I teach them how to do it themselves. I answer any of their questions about it, and provide them with that support and encouragement. Because I really want them to eventually, for us, like I want them to keep working with us, but we have other bigger fish to fry. We don't want to just focus on your budget. The way Dylan and I are financial coaches, we do want to help you understand, what your strategy is with your insurance. Have you had all the conversations you should have with your financial advisor? Do you need a better CPA or a CPA to begin with? So we have bigger conversations to get to. So the sooner that they can become very autonomous in their budgeting, the better for them and the better outcome for them overall throughout their life.
All right. So when you say autonomous, is it just a matter of, sending $100 into an investment account every week or something? Or, I like to automate as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have as many of my, monthly charges hitting a credit card. It just makes it easier. And I have the same thing with money going into investment accounts. So is that what you advise people to do?
It just depends on the person. It depends on their relationship with money. For some people that is really good and something that they feel really comfortable with. Other people want to be maybe a little bit more hands off. But when I say autonomous, I just mean in that they can do their budget for themselves, or they can talk to the CPA themselves, their financial advisor. So I am kind of that person that says, okay, here are the questions that you really need to ask your financial advisor. And do you need any education from me before you jump into that conversation, that sort of thing. So autonomous as in they're doing it for themselves. Now automation, that's where it's really like personality level, and like how dialed in are you on your budget and your cash flow? Because if you can't budget and you don't really know your ins and your outs, automation can be kind of dangerous, because you can end up being just constantly chasing your balancing on your checking accounts. And this is something that we've seen a lot when people are automating too soon. Then they're just pulling the money right back out of their savings, or, doing things like that. Right. So it just depends on where you're at in your journey and your relationship.
Out of mind, out of sight, but you have to feel it. And if you're not feeling it, automation is kind of like, you don't feel it. It's painless. And you stop noticing it, and then we kill ourselves in the subscription economy, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And really, I think, too, with the autonomous things is making sure that like you're actually moving on a consistent basis towards your goals. Because if it's just automated to where it's like acorns, right? They're like, oh, well, it's rounding up and great. And that's good, but is that really going to be enough? And a lot of people, I think, are kind of have that misconstrued concept of like, oh, that's great, I'm working towards retirement, but are you actually on track with something like that? Probably not. It's probably a drop in the bucket. So you need to be.
Do people realize that if they're carrying a credit card balance, paying 15 to 23% interest, rounding up that little extra change into another account is really, they're not going to earn they're not going to earn the credit card interest rate probably from an investment account.
Yep. Oh, sorry. It looks like my camera shut off randomly. But okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. That is exactly the type of thing that I educate my clients on, and just like, if they have that type of account, I'm like, okay, but what's your intentional purpose with it? And, are you thinking about this from all those angles of those fees and those secret little things that are, coming up? And does it really work for your strategy to get you where you want to go? Maybe, maybe not.
Okay. So what would be a strategy for somebody that needs help with a budget? To me, budgeting and dieting are very similar, because people think of them as restrictive. And I know people who've been trying to get better with money, and I know people who've been trying to get better with their health. And I find that they have such similarities. And I use those a lot, the example of dieting to budgeting, because a budget to me is like a diet. It's good to have you back. It might not necessarily work well. Mm-hmm. So what do you do about mindset? Or I mean, people are obviously motivated, or else they wouldn't reach out to you in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure that they have the right mindset to stick to a budget. And sometimes people are just like, I just don't know where my money's going.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we start with that budget conversation. The very next session is goal setting, and getting really crystal clear on what those goals are. And we're not just talking like oh, I want to buy a house one day, I want to retire one day. We really work with people to help them get really what we call HD vision for their life. So that they can think about their why, right? Whenever they're faced with that need to call upon their impulse control, or they have to delay gratification because they need to stick to the plan, right? So that's a really big thing. And especially in like younger generations, we have this YOLO mentality, and it's hard for us to connect with like our future selves. So we do look at things like that to help them connect more with themselves in the future.
I understand. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I think maybe a budget is really like the wrong word in the first place. Like we talk about in my business, we talk about a retirement plan, an investment plan, a financial plan. And I personally, a lot of my fellow financial advisors are going to disagree with this, but I feel like a financial plan, it's kind of like something for show. And a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but I'm like, it's great to have the financial plan, but it's not a personal finance plan. And I do financial planning for clients, and I use software to do it, and it creates these beautiful reports, and it gives you all the inflation outlooks and the bubble chart and the Monte Carlo simulation, and you pick your goal here, you pick your goal for that, you factor in what you think could be a reasonable assumption of inflation and a reasonable assumption of returns. And then you say, based on all this is where you are now. This is where you're going to be in 20 years or 30 years. And this is what you'll be able to spend down. But that's one thing. But actually sticking to it, it's like, you're not just a number, you're a name. You're just sticking to putting X amount of dollars away.
Yeah, you can't connect to just numbers and data.
Yeah,
it's not real life.
Right. It's just, you're not connected to it. I feel like it's, it doesn't speak necessarily to values. I'm not talking about values like you're leaving money to a specific charitable cause. Like that's values. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying it doesn't reach it doesn't reach into your daily money habits. It doesn't reach into, this is not just what I could afford to spend, but it's what I could have. And I just feel like so many times I do a financial plan, and then you go over with the client a year later, and are you on track? You're not on track. And there's so many things that knock things around. Maybe the market went down, maybe the market went up. So it's constantly changing. Maybe interest rates went down, maybe inflation went up, and then interest rates went up. But it's not creating the personal daily, weekly, monthly things that people have to do, because it's just like, well, nothing. I have the report, but nothing in my life has changed. It's electronic. It's you could read it on your iPad. I could print it for you too. And then people get it and like, okay, great. I'm going to go home and thank you very much.
Yeah. And it's totally on them to just,
and a month later, it's like forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. And that's totally where we really complement that really well. It is definitely to help those people to be like, okay, now what? I want to need to make these changes based off of what my advisor told me, but how do I actually do it? And how do I do it sustainably? Like, that's the thing about diets, right? Is like, maybe you can stick to it for a couple weeks, if even. I'm not good at that. I'm great at budgeting, not at diets.
Sustainability is the key. That is the key. So what I'm trying to do, and I want your perspective here, is how do you make that connection? Because I don't know if I think it's a financial advisor. I could be a financial coach, but there's only so many hours in a
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
It's a different business model.
Oh, yeah, and it's
You
a
know,
completely different headspace too. Like, I mean, we're
yeah,
both in
yeah.
the finance field, but like, this is very personal. This is like so much energy because, yeah. I mean, well, sorry. Finish your question.
That was it. No, you're
Yeah,
go
okay.
on. You're the
um,
guest.
but yeah, it's so personal. Like, I really have to get to know my clients and and like on just this very, very kind of pretty deep level, of what's important to you. And I have to be able to, in those month by month meetings, be like, hey, you're getting this idea to do this over here with your money. But remember when we talked a couple weeks ago and you said, that this was actually really important to you, and so they're like, oh yeah, okay. It's not matching up, so it's like, it's really, a lot of times clients are like, this is like therapy, this is better than therapy, type of thing.
Okay, so speaking about money therapy, okay, um, when you have a client come in, for example, like give me an example, if you will, like of somebody who came in who, like, if you could share like a real life example of someone who would come to you, and what's the process like? They're clearly not on a sustainable path. They want to retire one day, but that's a joke because they can't save up. They're not doing it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just people that they could be good earners too. This isn't
Oh,
for
absolutely.
people
They
who
often are. Yeah.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
because you spend so much time on your skill sets, on your PhD or your degree or whatever, your licensing, whatever it is you have, but you're not focused on everything else, and you become kind of a servant in your area, but
Mm-hmm.
everything else falls apart. So, like, could you give me like a real life example?
Yeah. So let's see. There's so many. So I have this really fantastic entrepreneur couple, very high earners, very accomplished, young, have a couple kids, and things are really we're looking pretty good for them. But there wasn't necessarily like this deep understanding of what their strategy was. They didn't really know. They had some really good pieces already at the table, but it wasn't all like really sinking, right? And so, we start with those basics of just like, where's your money coming from? Let's get down all those income streams. Let's really look at that. And then where is it all going? And then from there, we can start to make some decisions. And then let's just talk about what those goals really are for you. Cause I think the thing is about us is, I mean, you follow us on social. We don't serve just like your everyday average bear. Like, we have people who want to retire early. They're living out of their vans. They're crazy entrepreneurs. They're doing all kinds of stuff. So it's really fun to help them get to these kind of off the beaten path goals. And so we help them to navigate through all of that. And sometimes that means paying down debt. Sometimes it means just connecting them to the right financial advisor, CPA, like I was saying before. And just being that kind of that bug in their ear that's saying, hey, ask about this. Hey, this might work for you. And then having that accountability to, did you call them? Did you take the action that we talked about, to move you closer to those goals that we laid out for you as well?
What do you do when somebody is not meeting their goal? I mean, you have to somehow get them to realize that they have to blame themselves. Like,
Yeah.
If you're going to shame somebody, this is not the Dave Ramsey show. If you're going to, did I say that out loud? If you're going to shame somebody, I don't think that's going to work either. Like,
it doesn't. It's not a motivator.
Like, you're not going to, I mean, as a financial advisor, I don't point my finger and say, you said you did this, you effed it up and you ruined everything because
Yeah.
That's not really what I mean, obviously we're dealing with adults also. So there's got to be a level of respect.
They have to just want it, and that's really what it is just reminding them of, those conversations, their exercises, the things that we've already hashed through, the wins that they've already had to keep, to motivate them to keep going. But they just have to want it. And if they don't want it, then unfortunately, then that's going to be their life. They're constantly just going to be kind of frustrated. But it's different for everybody too, for what things motivate them. A lot of times it's just reminding them of like, hey, it's not going to get better if you don't just take the action.
What kind of do you actually give people exercises to help them get in tune with their relationship? I feel so corny when I say that, because it's like
your relationship with money.
Yeah, yes. I even say it. You finish my sentence. It's like such a corny buzzword. And we help you with your relationship with money. It's like, oh my God, I want to vomit. It's like,
but it's
yeah, I know
real.
you're a financial advisor, and we want to give you, holistic advice. Yeah, but there's more to holistic advice than managing somebody's money and creating a financial plan that's based on data and algorithms and all those other things, and Monte Carlo simulations. But you're not connecting. I feel I'm a good connector, and that's what works for me. It's what enables me to stay in the business, and because I can help my clients. Just a little self-doubt there, but what are there exercises that people could do? It's like, I say to people, imagine how good you're going to feel when you save that first goal, the first dollar amount that you're going to save, and you're going to go to bed knowing that you have something there. Like you go to bed with a little bit of insecurity every day. I want you to get rid of that, because once you get rid of that, you get rid of that scarcity mentality. Another buzzword coming up, you get into the abundance. Mind abundance.
I know. And I am right there with you, Mitch. I feel a little called out because I do use those buzzwords because that's what people are connecting
I do too,
to.
But
it's what people know. But it is true. People really do have a relationship with money. I talk to people about, how money was managed in their home when they were young, what type of, life they really grew up in, and how they do manage their money does say a lot about their values and a lot about what they think is important, right? So that is a big part of it. But for the exercises that we do, like I said, there's this really cool thing. I'll post it tomorrow about your future self, and saying like with how connected you are with your future self, it definitely dictates how well you're able to do things like delayed gratification, which is all saving money is. It's saying I've got this money now and I'm going to set some aside for future me, right? So we do like this full exercise. We're like, imagine yourself, like what color is your hair? Where do you live? Do you have dogs? Do you have grandkids? Do you have whatever age that they're trying to achieve a goal, and to just get really detailed with it, because this is actually really important for people who are struggle with stress, depression, anxiety, who are like ADD, ADHD. Really, really struggle with future long-term goals. They can just see what's in front of them. That's all they know. And so these exercises are really helpful for people like that.
And do you ever get to a point where you could tell somebody, listen, I think you need a different kind of professional. I can't be your therapist that you call every day for an hour and a half because you're having major personal issues. You have to really seek some professional help.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And this is, like I said, I mean, with even the budgeting, right? I'm not a coddler. I'm not going to do this for you. You have to want this. I'm going to give you the tools, the information, the support, the encouragement. I'm going to share everything that I can with you, but I'm not on call. You're not, you can't reach out to me just like whenever you want, or like, I'm not going to respond to you like, at the drop of a dime. That's not what I do. I want you to be an adult, stand on your own 2 feet. And if sometimes that means that, you have some underlying issues where you do need to talk to another professional, absolutely. Absolutely. Marriage counseling comes into play sometimes too,
We've got a few people. Michaela is out there and Steve is watching, and a friend of mine gave me a really nice shout out. Hi again. Had to tune in for your words of wisdom. Thank you very much. I'm sure you were talking to Rebecca here. I'm hearing words of wisdom, and I'm not hearing them from me. So thank you thank you very much, Gary. Really appreciate you always tuning in. Gary's a very good friend of mine, and he's super supportive of my live streaming effort. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
And a good friend. Yeah.
You need those.
Yeah. The only thing I really spend money on is live streaming stuff.
Yeah, you've got some serious,
so I can do
setup.
this.
There you go.
Like when I do my live stream solo and I answer questions, I go, that's a very good question. And my answer is blah, 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 blah. And give you a little behind the scenes view of what's going on here, and I have to organize a little bit better, and I could do some sound effects, So let's give a round of applause for Rebecca. Oh, yeah.
That's so fun. I love how much fun you have with it.
It is. I have a lot of fun. And when I tell a corny dad joke, I do this. I'm having a lot of fun. And I just gave I had a Zoom call with my son and his friends. They wanted to learn about investing in the stock market and personal finance, and they loved it. We had an hour and a half Zoom call last week, and they thought it was so funny. Whenever somebody would make a comment, I would do this. I gotta have fun. I have fun with it. So anyway, I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom. I just want to put on the screen real quick. I'm trying to think of what's the best way to share the screen. I'm just going to see if I could put your screen up here with you on the screen. Yeah, that's actually working pretty good. Okay. So this is your website. Here we go. I'll lift it up a little bit.
Oh no, I was just being a whiting,
Oh yeah, it's tough to do. Let me make this a little smaller. Okay, and okay, we'll see a little bit of it. How about if we do this? I'd have to take both of us out, so we'll just do it like this. Okay.
No, it's great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're very welcome. We could also do this, share screen. Oh, that's better.
Ooh.
Okay. Make it a little bigger like that so people could see it on their smartphones. Okay, so here we go. So you found yourself on our website because you're obviously committed to improving your finances, but until now, you struggled with things like starting to build a strategy, but you're not sure what to do first. Embarrassed about past mistakes that are holding you back. That's called baggage. That's what it's called. Take it.
Everybody's got it.
Everybody's got. It's called the past.
Yep.
It's called the past. And here is a great picture of you and Dylan. And I love the picture. I think it's a great picture. So this is your website. So it's radcoaches.com. So if anybody wants to reach out to Rebecca, and she's on LinkedIn, Rebecca Brooks, financial coach. And that's about it. I really appreciate you taking the time today. I enjoyed the conversation immensely.
Same here. Thanks for having me back, Mitch.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's great to talk about, our relationship with money,
Yeah.
I think every time I hear that expression, like I have to take my wallet out and give it a kiss and a little pat. I love you, wallet. All right. I'm going to let you go, and I'll speak with you very soon. Okay.
I'll see you on the interwebs.
All right. See you on LinkedIn. Take care. Bye. All right, everybody. So thank you so much for watching. That's our interview with Rebecca Brooks. I hope you got a lot out of this. If you have any questions, hit us up in the comments. Rebecca will be sure to answer those if you have any questions for her. And I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you very much. Have a good night.